In the beginning. We live in a beautiful world. Just look at the amazing things around you. Let's go back to the beginning and see what the Bible tells us about how it all began. In the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth. God moved over the darkness and said, "Light!" He called the light day, and he called the darkness night. Day 1, done! Then, God made a space to separate the waters above from the waters below. He called the space sky. Day 2, done! God gathered the waters together and dry ground appeared. He called the ground land and the waters seas. Then he made plants like grass, grain, and trees. Day 3, done! Then God made lights in the sky. He made the sun for the day, the moon for the night, and all the stars. Day 4, done! God made fish to swim in the waters and birds to fly in the sky. "Have babies," he told them. "Fill the world with splashing and singing." Day 5, done. Next, God made animals. He made farm animals, wild animals, and animals that crawl on the ground. "Just one more thing to make," God said, "the most special thing of all." So, in His image, God made man and woman. "Have babies," He said. "Take charge of the world. Care for the fish, the birds, and the animals." Day 6, done. Then God looked at everything He had made. "It's very good," He said. So, on the 7th day, He rested and made that day special. Day 7, done. The first sin. The first man and woman, Adam and Eve, lived in a beautiful garden that God made for them. But Satan came as a crafty serpent and tempted Adam and Eve.
"Did God say you must not eat the fruit from these trees?"
the serpent asked Eve. "Just the tree in the middle," Eve replied. "If we eat from it, we'll die."
"You won't die," said the serpent. "There's a reason why God doesn't want you to eat from that tree. If you do, you'll be like Him. You'll know what He knows."
Eve ate the fruit. She gave some to Adam, who was with her. He ate it too. And at once, they knew things they had never known before. One thing they knew was that they were naked. They sewed leaves together to cover themselves. They'd never felt fear or shame before, so they knew something was wrong. Adam, God called. Eve. We're hiding, said Adam. We're naked. You know that because you ate from the tree, God sighed. Then Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. God said, "Serpent, you must crawl on your belly. A woman's son will defeat you. Eve, childbirth will be painful. Adam, growing food will be difficult." Then God made clothes for Adam and Eve and sent them out of the garden. He put an angel with a flaming sword there so they could not return. Two by two. The earth filled up with people. But they sinned so much that God was sorry He had made them. He decided to send a flood to wash away everyone on earth. There was a man named Noah who wasn't like the others. Noah loved God and obeyed Him. God decided to spare Noah and his family from the flood. God warned Noah about the flood. He told him to build an enormous boat with a low roof, 3 decks, a window, and a door. In obedience, Noah built it. God told Noah to collect 2 of every kind of animal, 1 male, 1 female. Then Noah, his family, and the animals went into the boat. God shut the door. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Water fell from the sky and rose from the oceans and lakes. Even the tallest mountains disappeared beneath the flood. Meanwhile, Noah, his family, and all the animals were safe in the boat, floating on the floodwaters. God had not forgotten about Noah, not even for a moment. God sent a wind to blow. The waters went down. The boat rested on Mount Ararat. Noah sent out a dove. When it didn't return, he knew it was safe. When the ground was dry, God told them to come out. He put a rainbow in the sky as a promise that He would never flood the whole earth again. God's amazing promise. Abraham lived in Haran. Abraham, God said, I want you to leave Haran and go to another land. God didn't tell Abraham where that was. Trust me, God said. Do this, God said, and your children will become a great nation. How? Abraham wondered. His wife Sarah was too old to have children. Trust me, God said. Go where I tell you, God said, and you will have more descendants than there are stars in the sky. They will bless the whole world. Trust me. So Abraham trusted God. He took Sarah, his nephew Lot, and everything they owned. He went where God told him to go. He went to the land of Canaan. When he arrived, Abraham camped at Shechem. God appeared to him. I will give this land to you and your children, God said. Abraham built an altar to God there. Abraham traveled around God's promised land. He was glad that he had trusted God. So he built another altar and gave thanks to God for all he had been promised. Abraham's big test. God promised Abraham a son, and from that son, many descendants who would bless the whole world. But Abraham and his wife Sarah were too old to have children. "20 years went by. Still, Abraham trusted God's promise. When he was 100 and Sarah was 90, God reminded them of his promise. Sarah was going to have a baby. When their son was born, Sarah was so joyful that she laughed. God has brought me laughter, she said. So they named their son Isaac, which means he laughs. When Isaac was a boy, God tested Abraham by telling him to take Isaac to Mount Moriah and kill him as a sacrifice to God. Abraham was confused, but still he trusted God. Isaac carried the wood, and Abraham held the knife and torch. Together they climbed the mountain. "Where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" asked Isaac. "God will provide it," Abraham replied. Abraham arranged the wood on an altar, tied up Isaac, and laid him on the wood. As he raised the knife to kill Isaac, an angel called his name, "Abraham!" "Don't hurt the boy," the angel cried. "God knows you trust his promise. Look, there in the bushes, a ram is caught by its horns. Sacrifice that instead." So Abraham sacrificed the ram instead of his son. He called the place God Will Provide, because God provided the sacrifice. Just as God had said, His promise came true. The Dreamer. Jacob had 12 sons, but he loved his son Joseph the most. He gave Joseph a special brightly colored coat. Joseph's brothers were jealous of him. They hated him. Joseph also had special dreams. In my dream, we were tying up bundles of wheat, he said, and your bundles bowed down to mine. Joseph's brothers hated him even more. Joseph had another dream. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down before me. His father and brothers grumbled. Are you saying you will rule over us? One day, Joseph's brothers were in the fields watching their sheep. They saw him coming to see them. They planned to kill him and put an end to all his dreams. It would be wrong to kill our brother, said Reuben. Let's throw him in this empty well. So they tore off Joseph's special coat and threw him into the well. Ishmaelite traders came by on their way to Egypt. Let's sell Joseph as a slave to the Ishmaelites, suggested Judah. So the brothers sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver. The brothers dipped Joseph's coat in goat's blood and showed it to Jacob. My son is dead, he wept. Meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt. But God was with Joseph. Dreams come true. In Egypt, the Ishmaelites sold Joseph to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's captains. God blessed Joseph and made him successful. Potiphar put Joseph in charge of his whole household. Joseph served Potiphar well. Potiphar's wife wanted Joseph to sin against God. Joseph refused, so she lied about him. Potiphar believed her, and Joseph was thrown into prison. In prison, Joseph met two of Pharaoh's servants. They each had dreams, and God showed Joseph their meaning. Joseph's explanations came true. The cupbearer was released, and the baker was hanged. Two years later, Pharaoh had two troubling dreams. The cupbearer remembered what Joseph had done for him and told Pharaoh. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph and told him his dreams. God showed Joseph the meaning of Pharaoh's dreams. For 7 years, a lot of food will grow, said Joseph. So store up food because 7 years of famine will follow. Pharaoh was impressed by Joseph's wisdom. So he put Joseph in charge of storing up all the food. Apart from Pharaoh, no one in Egypt was more powerful than Joseph. Joseph's brothers went to Egypt to buy food. They bowed before Joseph, but did not recognize him. When he saw that they had changed, he told them who he was. The brothers were terrified. "You meant to harm me," Joseph said. "But God used that for good. Bring all of our family to Egypt. We will have plenty to eat." A baby and a bush. Egypt was filled with Israelites. The new Pharaoh was afraid that the Israelites would become too powerful. So he made them slaves and treated them very badly. Pharaoh ordered that all baby Israelite boys had to be killed. One woman put her baby in a basket and hid him by the river's edge. His sister watched him. Pharaoh's daughter was bathing by the river. She found the baby and decided to keep him. His sister offered their mother's help to care for him. Pharaoh's daughter named him Moses. Moses grew up. One day, he saw an Egyptian beating an Israelite. Moses killed the Egyptian. Then he fled to Midian and was a shepherd for 40 years. Moses was watching his sheep on Mount Horeb. The voice of God spoke from a burning bush. "My people are suffering, Moses. I have chosen you to free them." "I can't," Moses cried. "I'll help you," God promised. "Throw down your staff." Moses did. It turned into a snake. When he picked it up, it was a staff again. "Put your hand in your cloak," God said. Moses did. He looked. It was covered with disease. When he did it again, it was healed. "Show Pharaoh that," God said. "I'm not a good speaker," said Moses. "I'll give you the words," God said. "Your brother Aaron can help." So Moses went to tell Pharaoh to set the Israelites free. Let my people go. Moses and Aaron told Pharaoh, "The God of the Israelites says you must let his people go free. Otherwise, bad things will happen to you." But Pharaoh would not listen. So God turned the water in Egypt into blood. No one could drink it. Then he filled the Egyptian houses with frogs. Frogs were everywhere. Still, Pharaoh would not listen. So God filled the skies of Egypt with gnats. They covered the people like dust. Then he struck the land of Egypt with flies. Still, Pharaoh would not listen. So God killed the animals of Egypt: horses, donkeys, camels, sheep, cows, and goats all died. Then he covered the Egyptian people with sores. Still, Pharaoh would not listen. God sent hail to crush the crops of Egypt. Their barley and flax were destroyed. Then he sent locusts to eat what fruit remained. Still, Pharaoh would not listen. So God sent darkness over the land. But again, Pharaoh would not listen. God said, "I will kill every firstborn son in Egypt, and all the firstborn of the animals. My people must kill a lamb, eat it, and put its blood on their doorposts. I will see the blood and pass over their houses. Those children will not die. You will call this Passover and always remember it." The Israelites obeyed God, but the Egyptian firstborn sons died, even Pharaoh's son. Finally, Pharaoh listened. He let the Israelites go. God makes a way. After Pharaoh's son died in the 10th plague, he let the Israelites leave. They were near the Red Sea when Pharaoh changed his mind again and chased after them. When the Israelites saw Pharaoh's chariots, they were terrified. But God told Moses to raise his staff toward the Red Sea. God sent a strong wind and parted the sea. A dry path appeared, and the Israelites walked straight through the Red Sea. There was a wall of water on each side of them. They arrived safely on the other side. Pharaoh and his army followed them into the sea. God told Moses to stretch out his hand. Then the sea rolled back again, and Pharaoh and his army all drowned. God led his people through a wilderness. He fed them and gave them water. They camped at Mount Sinai, where God told Moses to meet him on the mountaintop. Surrounded by fire and smoke, Moses climbed to the top, and God came down to meet him. Then God gave Moses the 10 Commandments on 2 stone tablets. Don't worship other gods. Don't make idols. Treat my name with respect. Treat the Sabbath day as a special day. Respect your parents. Don't murder. Be loyal to your husband or your wife. Don't steal. Don't lie. Don't envy people or what they own. Now, the people knew how to obey God. Waters part and walls fall. Moses sent 12 spies into the Promised Land. 10 of them said, "We will never defeat the people there." But Joshua and Caleb said, "With God's help, we can do it." Frightened, the people believed the 10 spies. God said, "Only your children, with Joshua and Caleb, will enter the Promised Land." So after 40 years in the desert, it was time. Joshua sent 2 spies into Jericho. They met a woman called Rahab, who hid them and helped them escape down the wall. They promised to spare her and her family. The Israelites crossed the Jordan River. The priests went first, carrying the Ark of the Covenant. When their feet touched the river, it stopped flowing. Everyone crossed on dry land. Jericho was next. The Lord told Joshua, "For 6 days, march once around Jericho. Then, on day 7, march around 7 times. Blow trumpets. Shout. The walls will fall down." Joshua trusted God. He did what the Lord said, and the walls fell down. They took the city. Rahab was spared. God's people began to take the promised land. A hairy tale. Again, God's people disobeyed him. So God let the Philistines rule over them for 40 years. Then he chose a man named Samson to set them free. An angel promised Samson's mother that she would have a son. Samson would have to make 3 promises to God. Never drink wine. Never touch dead things. Never cut his hair. God made Samson very strong. He killed a lion, and bees made honey in its body. Samson touched the dead lion, breaking one of his promises to God. He even ate the honey. Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah. The Philistines promised her lots of money to discover why Samson was so strong. She asked him again and again. Finally, Samson told Delilah his secret. "If my hair is cut, my strength will go." So, while he slept, Delilah called for a man to cut off his hair. Samson's strength left him. When the Philistines arrived, they captured him easily. They blinded him. Then they put him in prison and set him to work, dragging a heavy grinding stone. Slowly, Samson's hair grew back. The Philistines brought Samson into their temple to thank their false god Dagon for defeating him. Samson asked God to make him strong one last time. Samson stood between 2 pillars and pushed on them. The temple fell down, killing all the Philistines, and Samson with them. Samson didn't keep his promises, but God kept his. Wherever you go, A famine came to Israel. Elimelech, Naomi, and their sons went to Moab to find food. Elimelech died. The sons married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. Then the sons died too. The 3 women had no husbands. When the famine in Israel was over, Naomi decided to go home. "Stay in Moab," she said to her daughters-in-law. "It's your home." Orpah stayed, but Ruth said, "Wherever you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God." Together, Ruth and Naomi went back to Israel. It was harvest time in Israel. Naomi told Ruth to gather the bits of grain left behind in a field. The field belonged to Boaz, Elimelech's relative. Boaz approached Ruth. "You were very kind to Naomi," Boaz said. "Leaving home must have been hard. May God bless you." He gave Ruth food and told his workers to watch over her. Ruth told Naomi what happened. Naomi smiled. "When someone dies, his closest relative cares for his family. That person is their kinsman redeemer. Boaz is our kinsman redeemer. Stay close to him." So Ruth stayed close to Boaz. He liked her more each day. Boaz bought Elimelech's land and took care of Naomi and Ruth. Then he asked Ruth to marry him. Ruth had a son called Obed. Obed's son was Jesse. Jesse's son was David, and David became Israel's greatest king. So God blessed Ruth just as Boaz had prayed. A voice in the night. Hannah was sad because she had no children. She prayed, and God gave her a son, Samuel. She was very grateful, so she gave Samuel to God to serve him. Hannah left her little boy at the tabernacle with Eli, the priest. Samuel helped old blind Eli. He even slept in the tabernacle while Eli slept in a room nearby. One night, Samuel heard someone call his name. He got up and ran to Eli. "Here I am," he said. "I didn't call you," Eli grunted. "Go back to bed." Samuel crept back to bed. He heard his name again. Samuel ran back to Eli. "Here I am," he said. "I didn't call you," Eli sighed sleepily. "Go back to bed." After Samuel heard the voice a third time, Eli said it was the Lord. "If he calls again," said Eli, "say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" So Samuel did. "Samuel," God said, "can you be my prophet and pass my words faithfully on to my people?" "I can," said Samuel. And he did, until he was an old man. Stones, slings, and giant things. Israel's first king was named Saul. King Saul did not obey God. So God said to Samuel the prophet, "Find a man named Jesse. One of his sons will be the new king." Samuel found Jesse in Bethlehem. He looked at 7 of Jesse's sons. They looked handsome and strong. "Not them," God said. "I don't care about looks. I care about what's in a person's heart." Jesse sent for his youngest son, David, who was tending sheep in the fields. Samuel saw him, and God said, "He is the one." So David was anointed the new king. Sometime later, Israel fought the Philistines. A giant Philistine soldier called Goliath challenged the Israelites to send a champion to fight him. But the Israelites were all too afraid. David brought food to his brothers in the army. He heard Goliath's challenge and was not afraid. "How dare he defy God's army?" asked David. "I will fight him." Surprised, King Saul offered David his armor. "No," said David. "God helped me kill wild beasts. He will help me against Goliath too." David took 5 stones and a sling. "Am I a dog?" Goliath roared. "You send this stick of a boy to fight me." "You have a spear," said David, "but I have the help of Israel's God." David put a stone into the sling and threw it. It struck Goliath's forehead and knocked him down. The Israelites defeated the Philistines. With God's help, David was a hero. Fire from heaven. David became a great king. Then his son Solomon reigned. After Solomon died, God's people had many bad kings. King Ahab was one of the worst. His wife, Jezebel, worshipped the false god Baal. Jezebel persuaded Ahab and God's people to worship Baal too. Because of their sins, God stopped the rain for several years. Then he sent his prophet Elijah to King Ahab. "You have disobeyed God and worshiped Baal," Elijah said. "Tell everyone, including the prophets of Baal, to meet me on Mount Carmel. I will prove who the true God is." Everyone gathered on the mountain. Then Elijah said to the people, "Make up your mind. If the Lord is God, follow him. However, if Baal proves himself today, follow him." "Baal's prophets and I will each kill a bull. Place it on an altar and pray. The God that sends fire to burn up the bull is the true God." Baal's prophets went first. They prayed to Baal all morning. No fire came. "Maybe Baal is sleeping," Elijah laughed. "Shout louder." So Baal's prophets shouted all afternoon. Still, nothing happened. Elijah built an altar. He put the bull and the wood on it. He dug a ditch around it. Then he had water poured over everything until the ditch was full. Elijah prayed. Immediately, fire fell from heaven. It burned up the bull, the wood, the stones, and the water. The people bowed down and cried, "The Lord is God! The Lord is God!" A roaring rescue. God's people disobeyed him, so he let their enemies take them into captivity. They destroyed Jerusalem and carried away many of the Jews to their own country, Babylon. Daniel was one of the Jews in Babylon. He trusted God and prayed to him 3 times a day. God blessed Daniel, and he became a powerful leader in that country. Some leaders were jealous of Daniel, so they made a new law. People could only pray to King Darius. Whoever disobeyed would be thrown into a lion's den. Darius agreed. Daniel still prayed to God and was arrested. Darius was sad. He liked Daniel. He realized he'd been tricked, but couldn't change the law. Daniel was thrown to the lions. The lions roared and crept up to Daniel. Then an angel arrived. It was God who sent him. The angel shut the lions' mouths. Daniel spent the night there unharmed. At daybreak, Darius went to see if Daniel was alive. God sent an angel to save me, Daniel said. The king was thrilled. Daniel was pulled out of the den. Then King Darius had Daniel's enemies thrown into the den. The lions gobbled them up. King Darius told everyone in his kingdom to honor Daniel's powerful living God. The Brave and Beautiful Queen. Esther was the queen of Persia. Even her husband, King Xerxes, didn't know her secret. Esther was Jewish. Esther's cousin Mordecai worked at the palace and looked out for her. Xerxes' advisor Haman received a great reward. He was very proud. Everyone except Mordecai bowed down to him. Haman was insulted. He vowed to kill Mordecai and all the Jews. Haman told Xerxes that the Jews were dangerous and should die. Xerxes agreed and set a day to kill them. Mordecai was terrified and sent a message to Queen Esther. "Change the king's mind," said Mordecai. "If I go to him without his invitation, he can have me killed," Esther replied. "Perhaps you were made queen just for this moment," said Mordecai. Esther bravely agreed to try. She went to the throne room. King Xerxes was amazed by her beauty and invited her in. "Can we have dinner with Haman?" she asked. Haman was building a big gallows in his backyard. He planned to hang Mordecai on it. Then the king's invitation arrived. So Haman went to the palace for dinner. "A man wants to kill me and my people, the Jews," Esther told Xerxes. "Who would do such a thing?" he asked. "The evil Haman," Esther cried. "Haman? Guards! Put him to death!" So Haman was hanged on the gallows he'd built for Mordecai. Because of Esther, the Jews were saved. They celebrated with a great feast, which they observe to this day. The walls go up. Nehemiah was the cupbearer to King Artaxerxes of Persia. Nehemiah heard that Jerusalem was in ruins and that his friends there were in trouble. He asked God to help them. God gave Nehemiah the courage to speak to King Artaxerxes. Nehemiah asked if he could go to Jerusalem and help them fix their walls. Artaxerxes agreed. Nehemiah left for Jerusalem. Nehemiah walked around Jerusalem. Things were even worse than he'd heard. "This will be a big job," he told the people. "But with God's help, we can rebuild these walls." Everyone worked in families and groups, fixing the gates first. They fixed the sheep gate, the fish gate, the dung gate, and the other gates. Then they started rebuilding the walls. First, their enemies laughed. But as the walls grew higher, those enemies prepared to attack. So God's people worked with a tool in one hand and a sword in the other. After just 52 days, the wall was finished. Ezra the priest read God's law to the people. They promised to obey God's law and praised Him for protecting them.